The Surf browser. It is the Suckless web browser. It's one of the Suckless utilities. Surf is a WebKit 2 GTK Plus browser. So think of Surf as Chrome. It's basically Chrome except without any features at all. Surf is basically just a window that displays a web page. That's it. Doesn't have bookmarks out of the box, doesn't have tabs, really doesn't have any features that you would expect a modern day web browser to have. All those features that things like Firefox and Chrome have, you have none of them in Surf. Again, Surf is just a single window that pops up that happens to display a single web page. That's basically all Surf is out of the box, but we can add some patches and do some interesting things, add some scripts to it that will give us a little bit more functionality to it. And the more I've played with the Surf browser, I gotta be honest, the more I like it. Let's get started. So let's get started making Surf a little more usable. Let me go to my desktop here and we're going to open up Surf. And to launch Surf, probably the easiest way to do it is if you're using the Suckless web browser Surf, you probably have Suckless's dmenu also installed on your system. Dmenu is a fantastic command launcher, so just launch dmenu with whatever key binding you have it set and then type surf space web address, so suckless.org. And it takes you to suckless.org here in Surf. So this is the Surf browser. No menus, no panels, nothing. It is a single window, almost like a terminal window, except it's a graphical program. It's not text-based. It's just a window that displays a web page. That's it. Nothing extra, nothing fancy. The text is a little small here out of the box, so I'm going to Control-Shift-K to zoom in, Control-Shift-J to zoom out, Control-Shift-K to zoom in. So it uses a lot of Vim key bindings, so pretty easy to figure out. Control-Shift and H and L moves you forward and backwards in the web pages. They're basically your forward button and your back button on the browser. One of the most obvious features that Surf is missing is bookmarks. That's going to be one of the ones that right away you're wondering, how do I get a bookmark? Well, you go to Surf, the Surf tab here at suckless.org. Go to Patches, and there is a patch called Bookmarking. You need to grab the latest diff, so Surf-Bookmarks-2017, that diff. There is another diff here from way back in 2013. Don't grab that one. Grab the latest one, download that, then let me close out of Surf and open up ST, the simple terminal. You zoom in here, and I'm going to CD into the directory where I have the Surf source code. So if I do a ls, you'll see that I put the Surf bookmarks diff here in that directory. Now all you need to do is patch Surf so that you get that bookmark patch. So patch space dash p1 space less than sign, very important, less than, not greater than, and then the name of the patch. So you just run that. I've already run it, so I don't need to run it, but you run that command, and it should patch just fine. It did on my instance of Surf here. So after you run the patch, then you need to sudo make install. It won't hurt me to go ahead and rebuild here on camera, assuming I typed the password correctly. And what machine am I on? Okay, there we go. So, you patch it, then do a sudo make install. Let me open up Surf again to demonstrate how to do a bookmark. So I'm just going to launch Surf. I won't even type in a web address. Let's just get a blank screen here. So this is Surf, and Control G for go. Let me just go somewhere on the internet that I don't already have bookmarked. I don't think I bookmarked distrowatch.com already. So let me go to that particular website here in Surf. If I want to bookmark it, now that I've got the bookmarking patch, Control M sets a bookmark. Now if I Control F for find and start typing, I don't know, D for DistroWatch. Oh, DistroWatch is there. So I don't have to, constantly type the full address. It's there. It's waiting for me. among several other bookmarks. I have my GitLab already bookmarked. I think I'd already bookmarked my Patreon, my Mastodon, of course the YouTube page. So I've got several things already bookmarked. Let me close the Surf browser. I'm going to open the terminal again. Let me zoom in. Let me get back into the source code here so you can see what's going on. Do a ls. So this directory has the source code for Surf. This is where you're going to find basically all the C files, like the config.h, the header file. That's the important Surf config file. So if I did a vim config.h, this is really the file that you would use to configure Surf for the most part. It's got some interesting stuff in it. Most of this stuff I'm not going to go over today, but the key binding stuff, I mean, you could play with the key bindings. If you don't like some of the default key bindings, you could change these. Let me quit out of that. But there is another Surf directory on my system. So if I cd back to home, and this time cd into the .surf directory, not surf without a dot, that's where I put my source code. That was just personally where I put my source code. But when you have Surf on your system, you need to create a .surf directory. If I do a ls, you'll see in this directory, this is where you have things like bookmarks and style sheets, and there's a JavaScript file and cookies and all that extra stuff that's really not part of the source code for Surf. When you do sudo make install, none of this stuff is needed to actually build Surf. So you put all this stuff, this extra cruft here in .surf. And bookmarks is what we're interested in here. So if I vim bookmarks, open this up in Vim, you'll see when I did the Control M earlier on the distrowatch.com page, it added distrowatch.com to this plain text file. So every time you do Control M, it just keeps adding a new bookmark to this list. That's all this is. It's just basically a plain text list of web addresses. Nothing fancy. So if you wanted to, you could actually just manually add stuff. I mean, if I wanted to, I could, add something new here. So if I wanted to add, I don't know, Facebook.com, and I would never add Facebook.com to my bookmarks. Come on, you guys know better. I'm fine with the bookmarks that I already have. I'm sure I'm going to add more, but let's just quit out of that. The next thing we should discuss are style sheets. So for those of you that are kind of familiar with web development, you know that style sheets, cascading style sheets, CSS, are used to style web pages. They're basically what determine, the color of the background of the web page, the font size, whether a font is underlined, is it bold, italics, that sort of thing. You do that using CSS cascading style sheets to design web pages. So if I go to, let me open up Surf again, we'll open up suckless.org because I'll be going to this web page a lot. Let me zoom in. I don't really like how this web page looks, especially if I go to it a lot. I don't like the white background. It's kind of bright. It's kind of jarring. It's basically black text on white background. I could do better. I think I could do a better design than this. So I could write my own custom style sheet for suckless.org. Let me close suckless.org here in Surf. And this time I do need to go into the Surf source code directory because I am going to need to go to the header file. So vim config.h. And if I page down here a little bit, you will see a section right here. Well, I never did add scroll back to ST. I need to eventually patch ST to work with the mouse scroll. So I have this section here, static site-specific styles. So this lets me add a style sheet for specific web pages or websites that I go to all the time if I want to change the style. So I already have 2 lines added that I added myself. Suckless.org has its own style sheet called suckless.css. Wikipedia.org has its own style sheet called wikipedia.css. So it should style those pages appropriately. Now, I haven't actually put suckless.css or wikipedia.css in that .surf styles directory just yet, because I want to show you how you do this. If you're not familiar with how CSS works, how does this work? Well, the first thing we need to do is open up a proper web browser. So Firefox, Chrome, Chromium, Vivaldi, something that's not Surf. So I have Firefox on the system. So let me open up Firefox, and I'm going to go to suckless.org again. So, well, it's going to my YouTube page by default, but let's go to suckless.org. All right, so I don't like the white background. I want to change it to black. Well, if I right click on the page and I want to inspect element, let me go to that one. And basically this gives me the HTML and the CSS codes right here in the browser. I can find the appropriate thing to add to my suckless.css style sheet that I'm going to add here in a minute that will change this background. We can even play with it right here in the browser if I wanted to. So where did they set the background color for suckless.org? Well, my best guess, having designed a few web pages back in the day myself, I bet they probably did it somewhere with the body tag. So if I go to body here, you'll see body, here's all the CSS for body. Background color is here. If I change that from white, which they have it white, that's FFF there, to 000, changes the background of the page to black. And because it previews it right here in Firefox, I know I found the proper thing now to add to suckless.css. So let's create that file. So let me go ahead and launch ST again, CD into .surf. Now I'm going to run a ls, and you see I have a directory called styles. Let me CD into styles, run a ls again. There's nothing in the styles directory, so .surf/styles is where the CSS files that I create should go. Well, let's create one. So vim, and for suckless.org, if you guys remember in my config.h, I said that anytime I go to suckless.org, I want you to read a cascading style sheet called suckless.css. So let's create suckless.css. And I should zoom in here. And let me change the layout here. So what do we need to add? We need to add this body tag here with background color set to black if that's what I wanted to change it to. So you would just start typing body, parentheses, and a background color. Well, if I can type. And colon, and then whatever color you want to add. So we'll do black for purposes of this demonstration. And then I'm going to write. Oh, well, let me escape. Write and quit. And now let me launch Suckless. Let me go to a different workspace. Surf suckless.org. And that did not work. What? You know what? Sometimes on these things, like adding a background here, it's important to go ahead and add important. So if I space important. Now write and quit. Go back here, close surf. Let's launch it again. Surf suckless.org. And that worked. So I hope you guys understood what I just did there. Of course, the black text is not showing up on the black background. We'd have to fix that. So once again, this is all I did. Body, background dash color, set it to black, and it did need this important tag here. Why did you have to add important? Is because there's other stuff. These style sheets kind of nest within other style sheets, and something else was overriding this. So you had this exclamation important, basically saying, no, I want to force this web page to use this right here, background color 000 for black. Now, again, I don't like having the black background. I don't like having the black text. Let me actually style this in such a way that I think it fits with my desktop color scheme, my terminal color scheme. Okay, so I hacked on this a little bit. So this is still the suckless.css. So this is still that style sheet that's just for when I go to suckless.org, that particular web address. Well, anything that uses suckless.org, so any page that has suckless.org as part of the URL, this style sheet should affect it. So I set the background color to this particular value here. What is this value? It's the same background as my terminal. It's the exact same color. Set this value here, which is not background color, it's just color. That's the font color. So I set the font color to be a lighter color. Again, I gave it the important flag there behind it. And then the header color was still going to be white unless I set header background color to this value. I also played with the menu, the top menu in suckless.org, the tabs that say DWM, surf, and all of that. Adjusted those colors. And now what do I have? Well, let's open it up and see what happens. Surf suckless.org. And that is suckless.org now with my style sheet. What do you think? Basically, same background as my terminal, same kind of colors, used the same purple that was also part of my ST color scheme here. Adjusted some of what was going on in the menu and in the header. The only effect that this CSS style sheet didn't give me is I added transparency. That's not something you can do with a CSS style sheet. You have to do that with the Compton compositor. So if you want to see how I did that with Compton, let me open up a terminal, cd.config. Oh, well. Let me zoom in so you can see where I'm going here. So go to the .config directory here on my system, and if I do an ls, there is a Compton directory within .config. That's where my Compton config lives. So cd into Compton, do an ls, compton.conf, vim compton.conf, and you will see all my basically rules for transparency and shadowing and everything in Compton. If I page down a little bit, you will see this rule right here. Basically 95. 95 is the opacity. So we're using 95% opacity for class_G surf. So any window that is classified as surf, the surf browser, gets that 95% opacity. So that is how I got really pretty close to matching exactly what's going on in my terminal here in surf. So pretty neat, right? Let me htop and find a different layout. Yeah. So I was able to match suckless.org in such a way it almost looks like this is a terminal window rather than a browser window, almost like I'm using something like a terminal browser like Lynx, except it's not Lynx because it does have graphics such as the S here. If you go to the DWM tab here, you see the DWM logo, there's screenshots, so it is a proper web browser. You're going to have all your graphics and multimedia stuff here, but I themed it again in such a way, at least for this website. Now I would have to do this for pretty much every website that I go to. Well, not exactly. I could create a default.css and in my config.h file just say with whatever regular expression I want to use, any web address qualifies using the default.css, and I could always set every web page to have a background like this or certain font style or what have you. But that gets kind of complicated. So what I would do is the sites that I go to all the time, such as my YouTube channel, I'd probably set a style sheet for that to kind of match my theme, my color scheme. Why? Does it serve a real purpose as far as function? Not really, but it just kind of looks nice, right? It's just a little eye candy, and I wanted to play around with this a little bit because I thought you guys, the viewers, would be interested in this. I find it kind of neat, to be honest. It's kind of fun playing with these style sheets. And the last thing I want to discuss is tabs. How do you get tabs in Surf? Well, there's no patch to get tabs in Surf. You don't do that with a patch. How do you do it? Well, you actually have to install a program that handles tabbing. So Suckless has a program called tabbed. So on my system, I would sudo pacman-s. Tabbed is the name of the program. If you're on a Debian or an Ubuntu-based system, of course, you would sudo apt install tabbed to get this program. Let me go to the Suckless webpage again. You know, I keep manually typing this. I actually don't have to constantly type surf suckless.org. I could just launch surf with whatever key binding I have, Control G, and I'm pretty sure it'll find suckless.org for me, right? So that was from before. Control G to go, Control F to find, and then it'll find all your bookmarks. Control M to bookmark a page. Control Shift K to zoom in. We go to surf. Actually, I don't want to go to surf. I want to go to tools. And there is a tool, a Suckless tool called tabbed, and that is what gives you tabs in not just surf. This isn't a surf add-on or plugin. Most people are going to want tabs for surf. That's why they created tabbed. But you can also use tabbed in ST. I mean, this is a screenshot of the ST, the simple terminal. So if you want terminal tabs, I don't like tabs in a terminal, but if you wanted to, you could use tabbed with ST. You could use tab with in any terminal emulator, Xterm, URXVT. You could probably use tabbed in basically any program you want, but really, what are we going to use it for? We want tabs in this terminal. So you got tabbed. How do you use it? I'm going to go to some documentation on the internet. This is not at suckless.org. This is at troubleshooters.com. I'm not familiar with this particular website, but the author here has a great write-up on the Surf browser called Surf Demystified. And right here, Surf and Tab is one of the first things he covers. So to launch Surf with tabs, you type tabbed. So let me open up a terminal. Tabbed surf space dash PE. And there we go. We have surf opened up and we have a tab. Of course, I didn't give it any kind of web address or anything, but I guess I could Control G to go wherever. How about distrowatch.com? All right, and to get a new tab, Shift Control Enter. So Shift Control Enter, and now I'm at a new tab. I could Control F for find some of my bookmarks. I can open up my GitLab page, for example. And did that work? It did not load that. Control G to go to it did. I wonder why Control F for find didn't. Maybe I didn't hit the correct key combination, but I have two tabs open, right? I have DistroWatch here, and I have GitLab here. And of course, I just use the mouse. It does accept mouse input. If you wanted to do it with the keyboard, believe just Control and the number of the tabs here in the documentation. Control 1 takes me to the first tab. Control 2 to the second, Control 1 back to the first tab. Or if you just want to cycle through them the old-fashioned way, Control Tab, right? Control Tab. Yeah, so pretty easy way to get tabs on your browser is just to use the Suckless tabbed program. Of course, I didn't need to launch that actually in a terminal. I could have just, with D menu, tabbed surf space dash PE. All right, now how would I launch surf in a tabbed mode, but give it a web address so it just doesn't give me a blank page? Well, you can read through the documentation. I'm going to save you some of the trouble because it's not an obvious command how to do this, but tabbed space dash R space 2. You have to give it some kind of ID number. 2 is a good one to give it. And then surf, and then again the dash PE flags space. Then you need to give it this command, very important, X space, and then you need to give it a web address. So suckless.org. Now we just opened up a tabbed version of Surf, and it went straight to suckless.org. So there you go. By the way, if you open up Surf without invoking tabbed before it, so if you don't launch Surf, if you just launch Surf with the command surf instead of tabbed space surf, you're not going to have tabs in Surf. And there's no way to do that in that particular session of Surf. You're going to have to close that instance of Surf and relaunch Surf with tabbed. Hope that makes sense. So that is a little bit of what I've done playing around with Surf, and I gotta be honest, I've been enjoying it. Now that I've got some bookmarks up and running, I really like playing with the cascading style sheets. I know it's kind of, it's just aesthetics, it's just eye candy, but you guys know I like this kind of stuff. And then of course, now that I have tabs, do I use tabs that much? I really just didn't patch it. I installed Tabbed just a couple of days ago. I haven't played with the tabs that much. I kind of like using Surf without tabs most of the time, but there are some instances I mentioned, when I do my taking into account series where I have multiple web pages up because I'm reading all these news articles. For that, yeah, I want to launch Surf in tabbed mode, but for most of the time, most of my use, I probably could get by with Surf without tabs. And that guy that mentioned it is a distraction-free kind of way of browsing. You're more focused because there's only one web page to focus on, right? I mean, how many of us, I have a multi-monitor system, and I can tell you right now, most of the time, I've got 2 to 3 different web browsers open and visible on my screen. I'm got a video playing, on YouTube, I'm watching, or maybe just not even watching, just listening to it. Then I'm reading something, a wiki page somewhere, or trying to solve some problem. And then maybe I have, I don't know, my Mastodon up on something else where occasionally I'll get a notification that somebody messaged me on that. And, it's a lot to comprehend, where in Surf, if you don't have all these tabs and all these windows open, if you just have one thing going at one time, I could see how it would make you more focused as far as your web browsing experience. Before I go, this show was made possible by Ansem, Carlos, Chris, Douglas, Dylan, Leo, Rob, Robert, and Tony. They are the producers of the show. They are my highest tiered patrons over on Patreon. Without them, this show would not be possible. The show is also brought to you by all those fine ladies and gentlemen, all those names you see on the screen. They are the supporters of my work. If you'd like to support this channel, please consider supporting me. You'll find me at DistroTube over on Patreon. Alright guys, peace.